understanding stress, what it is, how it arises, how to deal with it, is important if we're going to develop the skills necessary to achieve what we want. Stress exists as a dispositional trait, you could say, personality almost. It also exists in the environment. So when I say dispositional, I mean we have a propensity towards feeling stress. Every person is different. Some people deal with stress better than others. We know this already. And there are also external sources of stress from the environment, let's say in your workplace, dealing with managers and leaders and so on, or maybe the pressure of work, the time constraints that are on the work that you're doing. So stress exists both in the environment and within ourselves. We've mentioned before the effect of thinking, of the inner monologue, of the images that we hold in our mind about ourselves and other people in the world and so on. And these uh, propensities to think and feel in a particular way can feed into a stressful situation. That's not to say stress is a bad thing. In fact, stress is required. Um, it's required for optimal performance, and I'll show you a stress curve now in a moment. So the word was borrowed from engineering. A fella called an endocrinologist, I believe he was in any way, Hans Selye, and he noticed that human beings in his practice, medical practice, he noticed that human beings were susceptible or showed this similar signs of the effects of this phenomenon as did building materials and steel and concrete and wood and so forth. Um, so Celia recognized that there's something in the environment that causes people's health to deteriorate, and he borrowed this term stress and applied it to the medical field, the medical fields. And so when we talk about psychological stress, it is the stress that is associated with thoughts, feelings, brain activity, neurological conditions, and so on. One of the first people to talk about stress and its relationship to performance were Robert Yerkes and an associate of his, I don't remember his first name, Yerkes and Dodson, and a law was formulated around their findings. They did some work on mice, and you could say, well, mice aren't human beings. How were they able to extrapolate this theory or this law from mice? Well, it's been replicated over the decades. It's 1908 it was published, so well over 100 years, 120 years or so. And they identified identified what they refer to as optimal stress. So let me share, hopefully this works here. Let me see. Let me share this. Yeah, here we go. So in the stress curve, let me just increase the size of this here so you can see it a bit better. With the stress curve, as you can see in the yellow space, this is optimal stress. And I'd even kind of shift that over a little bit more to the left, because once you reach the peak here, it starts, the positive effects of stress start to head south. Down here at 0, 5, 10, this is where people are disengaged, where they're not excited, they're not enthused, they're not turned on by their work, they're barely getting through it. You might even say they're somewhat depressed. And it's the same kind of phenomenon when you come down, you come over the top of the curve and head down the other side. But we refer to this down here in the 8 to 10 kind of region as burnout. And so as we are stimulated, as arousal increases, the human organism is expected to perform much better. So stress is required. The challenge of the situation is required in order for us to bring out our best. Think about any sports team on any given Sunday or in any given event or competition. Arousal is there. You need to be aroused in order to bring about your best, switched on, tuned in, ready to go, even aggressive, I might say. That's not to conflate aggression with anger, the two different things. And so when you're in this kind of zone, uh, as can be seen in this image, you're in an optimal performance zone. But if this is extended for too long a period, you'll start to fall off. Your performance suffers. And if it's not only on a single event, but if it's event after event after event, or day after day after day, let's say in your work, where you're continually pushed beyond your limits, well, you'll head into free fall and you'll hit this burnout zone. So stress and burnout are related. They're related, but they're different. So it's important to remember that. Um, what else have I got to say on the matter? I was talking to you about dispositional stress. I've got a note on this in here in the article today. Dispositional stress refers to aspects of personality that show one's proneness towards emotionality or emotional reactivity. So in the Big Five, the Ocean model, the Big Five model of personality, um, uh, this is measured on a continuum of, um, well, on a continuum, that suffices. I was going to say weak to strong, but that's the wrong terminology. Um, it shows your responses to particular questions will indicate your preferred behavior style under stressful conditions. So those who are higher on neuroticism or emotional reactivity won't cope very well with situations, and they'll tend to maybe give up before others. They will tend to maybe fly off the handle in frustrating situations. They can't manage their own emotional state very well. So one is either more prone or less prone to feeling stress or the effects of stress than others. But that's not the end of the story. There are things that you can do about that. And as you can imagine, your life situation can influence how much stress impacts your state of mind and your emotional state. If you ordinarily cope well with stressful situations, maybe the death of a loved one or a stressful relationship can impact your ability to cope. Um, so this is called a maladaptive behavior style to stressful situations. As I mentioned, there's also environmental stress, as I get into here in the article today. These are external conditions, demands on our ability to cope, or demands on our resources. And if we don't have the resources built up within us, well, then our ability to cope will be less. In the workplace or in a sporting environment, occasionally where there might be a perceived imbalance between the effort that you're putting in and the reward that's coming your way. Equity theory speaks to this as well. Well, it won't be long before you feel the effects of stress, and you may head towards that kind of clinical state of burnout. So they are conceptually distinct, burnout and stress, but burnout can be seen to be a consequence of extended stressful situations. Maslach was a significant figure in identifying burnout and categorizing burnout from a clinical perspective. It's identified as it's been associated with rather high levels of cortisol in the blood, as I mentioned in the last session, session 20 on anxiety. Those two terms are related. Can lead to all kinds of illnesses, digestive problems, skin irritations, heart defects, if extended over long periods of time. We're talking about fight, flight, and freeze in the last session. So these terms are all related to one another, classified in the DSM. And although stress is important, it shouldn't be prolonged. What I also wanted to mention was, and this is important, that the objective is not to remove stress from our lives. Stress is associated with challenge, with difficulty, with doing things that are worthwhile. And Aristotle had something to say about this. He spoke about the dichotomy between the hedonic lifestyle and the eudaimonic lifestyle. Eudaimonic lifestyle being flourishing well-being, all right? The doing of things that are worthwhile in and of themselves for no ulterior motive. It's the engagement in things that turn us on, that 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 are challenging and stimulating. Okay, the opposite to that is hedonism, where we're just constantly seeking fulfillment, short-term frivolous gratification, you might say. and this is a hiding to nowhere. It doesn't lead to complex engagement in work or in play. It's short term because there's a big dopamine rush, and then we come back down. And when we repeat this over and over again, we get on this what they refer to as the hedonic treadmill. So challenge and stimulation and stress are a part of life. And if we fail to develop the skills to deal with those situations, well, we won't be very strong. The old saying, calm seas never a strong sailor made, right? That comes to mind. So embrace the suck. Go where it's difficult. Challenge yourself. This is what develops the mental skill of stress management, of being able to manage anxiety and be able to push through. And you can do that where it's safe. You don't. It doesn't need to be a threat to your existence in order for you to manage stress. Stress is a normal part of life. In the next session, I forget what I was going to talk about in the next one, but session 22, let's see what we have coming up. I don't have it here. Well, we're staying with this topic of, yes, 22. We're going to talk about accepting conditions. This is important. Follow on from dealing with stress. The ability to accept conditions for what they are. And I'm going to talk to you the next day about acceptance and commitment theory, or acceptance and commitment therapy. Stephen C. Hayes and what he has to say about the importance of accepting conditions. This is part of 30 days of mental skills. If you want to learn how to cope and manage the challenges of life, you want to achieve your goals and obtain success, well, check out the link below in this article, the article associated with this video, and check out Essential Mental Skills. It's launching soon. More on that another time. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for the next session, and all the best for now.